I wish good things to you who's watching this. Toivotan hyviä asioita sinulle, joka olet katsomassa. I am Alexey, and these are the finals of the Finland Online Carcassonne Championship 2025. In about 6 minutes, we are going to see, I'm gonna say, the two best players in Finland competing for the online title this year. These are going to be the two top seeds initially. One of the highest rated players in the world, Nallerheim, that's Otto Ikonen, the fellow YouTuber and captain of the national team, who many of you well known, and the younger rising star, also one of the 3 Finnish masters with the highest rating, with a peak rating of 741, Larpaattori, that's Lauri Leppänen. And Otto Ikonen here is going to be the favorite, as he is going to be the favorite against anyone, but don't think his chances are going to exceed 65% here, so it should still be an interesting battle, as the other players in Finland are actually quite close to achieving his level, or at least they're trying to bridge the gap by practicing really hard. So for example, in the in-person national championship this summer, it wasn't Otto who won, which was usually the case, but it was actually Jani Kutilainen, who's also one of the participants of this online championships. Now, all the participants you can see on the screen here, they were initially divided into 2 groups in the group stage, and quite predictably, Nallerheim won his group and Larpaattori won his group. Then the playoffs went also relatively smoothly for both players, where Larpaattori lost a game to Malmström, and Nallerheim managed to not lose a single game in the semifinals. So now these two meet in the finals, and the format is pretty much straightforward, but the one difference between Finnish national online championships and other countries' national championships is that we're going to be playing a best-of-5 duel rather than a best-of-3 duel. So we're here probably for some good 2 hours, and we get to enjoy at least 3 games of Carcassonne, but probably even more than that. If we just have a look at the players real quick, you can see that Nallerheim's current rating is 700 and a little bit of something, 13,000 games of experience, and of course plenty of experience making YouTube videos about Carcassonne, which really also helps. His peak rating, of course, is, I believe, 876, which is the third highest in the world ever, and overall appears to be in very good shape right now. Larpaattori also in decent shape. His rating of 586 is significantly below his peak of 741, but 4,000 games of experience indicates really strong skill indeed. One interesting aspect about this pair is that they've practiced often together, so there might be something in the history between these two that could affect their moves that we're not going to be aware of. But so far, I think that's going to be enough of an intro, and we're just going to be waiting for the next 3 minutes for the tables to be created. Let me just catch up with the chat real quick. Hi, FZ. FZ is asking, for a solid 400 or 500 ELO player, do you think it's better to play a lot of games or alternate between playing and watching expert games to improve? That's an excellent question. I think, well, quality over quantity. I have definitely improved more in Carcassonne and Azul and other competitive games by playing against higher rated players. Just because I've noticed that I'm better at playing somebody who's higher rated because they push me to my limits. They actually force me to think, well, not outside the box, but think deeper about positions. And sometimes when I play lower rated players, I start making mistakes because they can help me get away. They let me get away with making mistakes, and this is really not what we want if we're practicing to improve. What I do sometimes like to do is maybe after a heavy practice sessions, I would play a couple of games against like lower rated opponents just to relax a little bit, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But I think if your goal is trying to improve your rating, then you want to be mostly focusing on those expert games and master games. So, for example, you could just message Nallerheim or Larpaattori for practice. I think if either of them is responsive, it would be quite useful. Hi, Nicola. Hi, PlateMac. Hi, Glavier. Yes, in 1 minute, we are going to start. Nallerheim's already online. They have joined their table. I know Finns are particularly known for their punctuality, so I don't believe they're going to start the game before 1600 Finnish time, so we're still going to wait for 1 minute. Yeah, I actually lived in Finland many years ago for 2.5 years, and the stereotypes about punctuality of Finnish people are particularly true. So even if you're late for a meeting 1 or 2 minutes, you would normally text the other person that you're going to be late. Whereas this might not be the case in some other countries where Carcassonne is popular. So now it's 1400 in my time zone and 1600 in the Finnish time zone, so we should be starting right now. And there we are. Usual time format of 3 minutes per game, and, well, not 3 minutes per game, but a maximum time bank of 3 minutes plus 45 seconds per turn. Nallerheim is playing with his traditional camouflagey green meeples, Larpaattori with the bright red. Nallerheim already is threatening a city and kind of making a move which I'm a bit surprised. Normally I think this here tile goes on the other side. But here's the combo that Nallerheim was planning. Just look at this wonderful, wonderful tile. Invading Larpaattori city whilst also covering up one of the square of his own. So this is a very good position already in the opening for the higher rated player. Already 4 points on the scoreboard as a result of this completed city. We can see how Lauri now creatively occupies a road whilst also killing off a monastery spot. There are of course still 8 curvy tiles that fit into that square, so this road is very, very well protected. Now Lauri is trying to put a bit of pressure here on this square, but unsuccessfully, as a Dorito tile is drawn by green. The city is equalized and the 4-point lead on the scoreboard is preserved. Larpaattori with a cow is probably going to go over here and invade that city, and this is exactly what happens. If that city is unattended, then it could pose a significant threat. Now, of course, it is not going to be completed anytime soon, and there are even backdoor ideas of taking over that city completely. So look at this, there's still 6 tiles that fit into this square, and then with a couple of Dorito tiles over here, red could repurpose his meeple, which he used to attack this here city, into trying and taking over this ruin. This is something that green is definitely aware of. So they will be just monitoring the situation. In the meantime, green is trying to be efficient, building a city next to their monastery so that they can get the points both for the city and for the monastery at the same time. Now, of course, red threatening the completion of a 6-point city, which is why green is immediately invading. And now a curvy tile for Larpaattori and a bunch of options available. So the most standard move is to go over here and drop a farmer, maybe. But this is a very, very interesting decision. Actually, I rather like it. So he adds 1 point to Nallerheim's monastery, but he restricts significantly the options that go into this square. So for example, now splitter tiles or city extender tiles, you know, any of those beautiful shielded constructions are not going to fit into this square. I even would have considered, from Larpaattori's perspective, to drop a farmer over here, because eventually this here square is going to get filled. These 2 cities already in the farm, a 3rd one is waiting to happen, and it looks like this here area will in fact be the main farm of the game. Oh, you're saying you can't see Nallerheim's score? Really? Okay, you mean... I don't think I quite get your comment because I can... Ah! This here thing. Alright, let me actually just ditch the scoring board because it's, unfortunately, is a little bit off. Actually, no, it's fine. It's just, sometimes going to appear and sometimes disappear. Oh, okay, everything seems to be all right. Yeah, now I'm with a very interesting monastery here with 3 points, and the idea, of course, is to get a straight line and then later control this road somehow. The risk, of course, is that with a couple of big tiles, red could go over here and block this square, but green knows that red already needs big tiles in other places, like here, to connect to that big city over here. Also note this here move by red, kind of coming very close to blocking green's monastery. There are in fact only 2 tiles that are left to fit into this square. Larpaattori tavallinen tien kanssa places a straight line in a way which helps green's monastery, which I'm not a huge fan of actually. It seems to help green a little bit more than it helps red, but then for lack of better options, it was decided by Lauri to continue this here road, you know, get a couple of curves, maybe a straight line, maybe another curve, and build a very, very long road using all these segments. And then if your road becomes these long, then you aren't really worried about completing it or getting meeples back. But in any case, yeah, this is a very good move by Nallerheim. It's starting to score a 4-point road, but the most important purpose of this move is to actually protect this square, because ideally what Lauri wants to do is to go here on the previous move, in fact, and even start creating some blocking nastiness against this here city, but none of that is going to work as Nallerheim gets himself a crossroad tile, finishes the city, does not drop an equalization farmer, which I find quite interesting. Maybe he wants to leverage his meeple advantage for a little bit longer. I would actually be quite curious to hear about this decision after the game, because the farmer seems to be fairly standard here. So maybe now he's going to finish it to drop a farmer. Or maybe not. There are several moves available. So now that Lauri finishes a 4-point city and gets a meeple back, he's going to have the meeple majority, and it would be in Otto's interest to get himself a meeple majority back, or rather meeple parity. Maybe going over here and not dropping a farmer, just finishing his road. On the other hand, if you're going to be leaving an empty city cap in the field, you might as well occupy that field. Another option is to go over here and prepare an evil hamster spot for 9 points. That would be quite interesting because it would develop both of these monasteries. And a third option is to go over here and try and protect this square from getting blocked, because after all, even though there are only 2 tiles that fit into this square, 2 is better than 0, and it could be in green's interest to get these meeple back. On the other hand, if we do go here and we protect that square, then it is still possible for red to go over here with a Dorito, or even worse, a triple city tile, score 3 points for the road, and then block this square completely, and then there will be no point in saving this square for green, because this monastery is going to be blocked in any case. Yeah, I'm a bit slow reacting to your commentary, but just a comment here from Nicola, which I wanted to address, that this here move prevents church stacking, which is actually an additional benefit. So even though it didn't quite work out, as green was able to finish the 8-point city, at least the worst case scenario was avoided, because if these 2 monasteries had been like this on top of each other instead of 2 squares apart, they would have been much, much more powerful for green. Yeah, Otto was really thinking a long time about this one. 40 seconds on his clock, of course, his time back is going to be partially replenished, and he does go for the higher variance approach. He creates the evil hamster spot for 9 points. Either side can take it. He's occupying a new city as well with a couple of city caps. It's going to be turned into a 10-point city. And look at Lauri dropping a second farmer and taking a stronghold on the field. He's going to be playing that sort of an over-farming game. This could actually work very well for him because Nallerheim doesn't have the resources to fight for a field just yet. It's going to be a while until he gets his Monastery Meeple back. In fact, it's the most likely outcome that he never is going to get this Monastery Meeple back, because now there's only one tile remaining that fits into the square, as one of them was drawn by Larpaattori. But Otto now scores 9 points for the Monastery in the center, so his gambly setup pays off. And now I think we're headed to a classic imbalance. So one side has the meeple majority and the field control, and this is red. And the other side has the scoreboard lead, the meeple minority, and just some points for their incompleted features. And it's going to be a roughly equal position. Who's going to win this game depends a lot, not only on skill, but also on who's going to draw the most city caps. So let's say if Lauri draws a lot of city caps, then he could just expand his field endlessly, and Nallerheim is not going to have resources to fight for it. But with this monastery, maybe he doesn't need to fight for it at all. And now that I think about this, maybe this tile belonged better a little bit over here, just to prevent this monastery stacking option. On the other hand, though, Nallerheim with big problems over here, as Larpaattori is playing yet another annoying blocking move. So first of all, what this move has accomplished is that it is now much harder to complete this city because there's only one tile that fits into this square. And second, and the reason why Nallerheim chose to use the triple city tile in the following way is because this square was also endangered. Larpaattori finished the 4-point city, only 7 points behind on the scoreboard, and still has the field control. Nallerheim with 3 monasteries and a curve. Now, there's still one tile remaining that fits into this square. So the question is it worth protecting at all? So let's say if we go over here, and we kind of protect that square, then what could happen later is that this city here blocks on this square or on one of these squares, and then when we get the starting tile, it sort of becomes useless. And if a starting tile goes here, we kind of accidentally prolong our opponent's field to include these here 2 castles. And that's why Otto doesn't even bother defending. Instead, he defends a different square. He defends this here monastery square, hoping for the 1 dagger tile that remains in the deck to fit here. In the meantime, Larpaattori with a significant advantage in meeples already by getting a magical splitter tile that allows him to finish a 6-point city whilst not finishing a city for his opponent. So Nallerheim is really looking for a city cap to get some of his meeples back. But even after this happens, it's going to be an even exchange in meeples and in city points. But both of these cities are, in the long term, on Larpaattori's field. Of course, Larpaattori is now going to go over here, perhaps, or maybe even over here, just to prolong his field. Yeah, this is exactly what happens. Now at least Otto gets 1 meeple back, and his blocked city is now starting to look pretty good. Larpaattori with a curve. Is he gonna finally get the 4 points for the road? Because, you know, he has to get that meeple back at some point. Yes, he does. 9 points already for that road. It's almost as good as a monastery. In fact, it's better than the monastery after a crossroads going to be drawn. Nallerheim with a bunch of options. Maybe going over here to prolong the monastery and his city, and then maybe hoping for another triple city or a triangle tile to go over here and finish one of his features here. There's also the super gambly option of going over here and setting up one of the 2 remaining monasteries, something that can be easily partially blocked. We're 10 points ahead on the scoreboard from Green's perspective, but Larpaattori is suffocating us with his meeple advantage. And Nallerheim thinks he's ahead enough so that he can make the move with the least variance. So he is very likely to finish that monastery, but it's not going to come with a lot of extra points. It's just going to come with 4 extra points, 2 for the city, 2 for the monastery, and a meeple back. Larpaattori tavallisen tien kanssa taas just continues the road. Nallerheim gets himself a meeple back with a shielded tile. Larpaattori with another road. Now the meeple advantage is not that pronounced. So he has a couple of options here. Option 1, we could just go here and take care of this block, you know, just to not allow some outside scenario of the city being completed. It's in fact very unlikely just because there's so many squares remaining to fill in the city. So Lauri just goes for a 6-point field. Yeah, that's the thing about having a meeple advantage in this late in the game. Like, we're in the late middle game. It's not quite the end game. And there are really not that many places to score because Larpaattori already has the field. So you can't really get yourself another field. Well, he did get himself another field, but it's only 6 points. So it's not even as good as this here ruin or even as this here monastery. Another thing that could happen in the future is maybe Otto finding some sort of counter field over here, like finishing this city, and then there's going to be another 6-point field where either side can occupy that field perhaps. We can see 3 quick points being added to Otto's scoreboard. Larpaattori with a triangle. What does he do? Does he go here and claim yet another field, as weird as it is? Probably not, no. He chooses to try and block Otto. That's ain't gonna work. Well, it might work, but it doesn't even matter because Otto frees up a meeple in another part of the board. This here guy is, I believe, not permanently trapped. There's still 2 tiles that fit into this square. Wait, so I wonder if Larpaattori now committed an imprecision. It could be possible that the commentator committed an imprecision, but I think that this curve should have been turned the other way. And this is maybe where the youngster has rushed his move a little bit. Because look at this, after this here curve, yes, there's still 2 tiles that fit into the square. I'm not crazy. But if we turn it the other way, then I believe there would have been only 1 tile remaining to fit into this square. Nallerheim can now just continue his road and do an indirect defense of this here square, which Larpaattori is trying to block. But honestly, I think at this stage of the game, with only 15 tiles remaining and 2 meeples in hand, and this lovely 6-point monastery which has been newly acquired by the play with the green meeples, this here meeple is completely dispensable. So as Otto, I wouldn't even bother defending it. I would just try and figure out what is my top equity move and play that. So I have 3 options in mind. Option 1 is going here and just going for a loop. The downside is that if Larpaattori gets himself a city tile, maybe something like a roaded Dorito, which does not exist, but maybe a different Dorito, which does exist, would also do the job, like go over here and sort of restrict 2 meeples at the same time. My other option is to go over here, but we just need to double check the curves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This wouldn't quite work because this is in fact the last curve of the game. But I assume that Nallerheim is planning to finish this road with something else, maybe with a crossroad tile, which does still in fact exist. There's still 2 of those. Larpaattori now with a great move, actually. Look at this. Scoring 2 points, dropping a city cap in his field, and then gambling it up by creating a 5-point road. in this here area in case Nallerheim gets himself a starting tile. In case Larpaattori gets himself a starting tile. Nallerheim, in the meantime, gets himself yet another monastery. And he gets himself a city cap to finish this city. Oh, this is going to be so one-sided. This is going to be so obscene. Hi, Ian. And Larpaattori is trying to desperately fight, but the starting tile also goes to Nallerheim, and this is exactly how you play these imbalances. You don't fight for the field, you draw all 6 monasteries, I believe. Yes. I think these were all 6 monasteries drawn by green. And then also win a couple of crucial coin flips. And there's just nothing that Larpaattori can do here. Of course, he's trying to finish an 8-point city in his field, which would net him 11 points. He's also trying to attack this ruin, which is a fantastic spot. But it doesn't help that Nallerheim gets another quick point tile, and he has a wealth of options. He could go here for 4 quick points, 2 for the road, 1 for each monastery. He could go here for 3 quick points, or he could just finish himself a road meeple, getting meeple back, but you don't really need a meeple back this late in the game. You just need to keep scoring and maybe avert the disaster scenario. So from Nallerheim's perspective, the one final test for you in the game is you just need to double check, is there even a theoretical possibility of Larpaattori overtaking the city and then somehow finishing it? And there might be such a possibility, because look at this. There's still one tile that fits into this square. And actually, there's still one tile that fits into this square. So that's going to be a double-ended city cap like this. There's still one of those. And I presume there's also one regular Dorito available. So there's like one tile of each kind. Yes, and Lauri is trying to create exactly that kind of threat, but it ain't going to work, as the last city plus field city cap has been drawn by Nallerheim. He's going to go over here, drop a 6-point farmer, sets up some more cities. Larpaattori, of course, connected successfully. This connection is now going to be... Oh, wait a second! It's not going to be blocked because still one of these guys available. So Larpaattori might finish this big city anyway. Oh, this is getting interesting. Oh, this is getting very interesting. But I think there should be still a way for Nallerheim to withstand this. The move, which comes intuitively to my mind, is to go over here and take this 4-point road. This would maximize our scoring, because we want to spend a meeple right now, since if our opponent finishes a city over here with the last remaining city cap, with the last remaining dagger, which I believe still exists, and I'm double checking, and yes, it still does exist, a dagger like this, then red is going to give us a meeple back and we can reinvest it in the future. But this sort of endgame requires quite a lot of calculation, and 1 minute and 30 seconds is really not quite enough to do an exhaustive calculation, so I guess I have to go by intuition. Let's see what Otto decides, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna burn all of his time here, leave himself like 15 seconds or so. He's trying to calculate all the points, all the tiles. So let's try and think a bit together with the players. And Nallerheim does indeed go for the move that I had intuitively in mind. And unfortunately for Larpaattori, he does not get himself... Wait, what? Oh, never mind, there's no dagger. Oh, there's no dagger anyway. Okay, okay. There's no dagger. Why did I thought there was a dagger? And I think Lauri also might have thought the same. Oh yes, of course. I didn't notice that this here dagger tile was used to attack the city in the first place. I should have listened to my first instinct. Anyway, still great attempt from Lauri to try and come back. If only he had drawn this here double city cap, then maybe we would have been looking at a different score, but I doubt the result would have changed. Yes, indeed, plus 30 nearly for Otto. So 1 Nallerheim, 0 Larpaattori. In about 1 minute, we're going to see a rematch, as Larpaattori is going to try to come back, being the new starting player. Yeah, and with that much stuff on the scoreboard, I believe there's just no way how this here city would have helped Red, even though it would have been flashier. Karabujan is saying, as green, I would have very likely attack Red's 10-point road at the bottom. But that, I don't think, would have been a very good move, because what Otto had calculated is that the outrunning route, the route where you let your opponent build stuff and you just build your own stuff, would be enough for Otto to secure himself a 100% win. Because when you have a big lead, you really don't want to start ideally attacking any features of your opponent if you can help it, simply because, you know, you never know. If something goes wrong, you're suddenly stuck with a 0-point meeple, and maybe your opponent has more comeback routes. Well, isn't that an exciting move here by Nallerheim? So Larpaattori starts the game with a red monastery meeple in the center. Nallerheim immediately with quick points. Larpaattori starts a new city, and Nallerheim is kind of forced to help Red's monastery a little bit, but as a result places his own meeple in temporary captivity under the control of the Red Monk. So the Red Monks sounds like a good name for a Finnish metal band, maybe. But I don't know the Finnish word for monks. Punaiset, kirkkoihmiset. I don't know. If somebody knows the Finnish word for monk, please help me out. Well, it looks like in the meantime, Lauri has gotten himself into a pickle, and I think this here was a mistake. Actually, massive one. What he should have done is place the same curve over here, but turned it down to disrupt Nallerheim's road. As a result, Red created a vulnerable square next to his own monastery, which Green immediately took advantage of. Yes, there's still 3 tiles that fit into this square, but Nallerheim can still go over here and try to make a permanent restriction, and Larpaattori gets bailed out by the deck, drawing the starting tile immediately, not getting punished for what I'm gonna say is quite a significant opening mistake for a master level player. So certainly the early monastery building strategies need to be rethought by Lauri after this match. But he has been bailed out. We're here from square one, and now, if anything, I probably prefer Red's position over Green's. Red almost finished himself a city, drawing yet another starting tile, but Nallerheim is going to continue his city on the right. We just need to find out where exactly he's going to orientate this Dorito tile. Oh, and that's a wonderful move by Otto here. Kind of creating some threats, you know, trying to poke with his semi-blocked city into the healthier city of Larpaattori, and Larpaattori, as a result, is forced to do some unideal things. Yes, this is the correct move, but this square was kind of vulnerable. Nallerheim now seemingly helps out Lauri's city, but he starts a 4-point road, and also, most importantly, he creates yet another threat, or rather renews the threat of this here damaged green meeple connecting to this here healthy red city. This is so interesting how, with 50 tiles left to play, So with 21 tiles already laid, we're still in the opening phase, where the first monastery has not been finished, where the fate of the initial city of Larpaattori has not been decided. And without seeing how it's going to end, we don't quite know who's going to have the advantage. We also don't know if this square is going to get filled for a red to get his monastery back. We don't know if green manages to finish this here city or not. Also interesting monastery choice here by Nallerheim, going himself for 5 points, but also sticking this road into this square. And I can certainly envision a situation how these two meeples get united. This square gets blocked. And maybe this road gets blocked, and Nallerheim proceeds this game at a meeple disadvantage. Still too early to tell. Larpaattori luostarin kanssa. What do we do here as red? Maybe here, starting a new monastery for 3 points while supporting our road. We do get blocked here sometimes a bit annoyingly. Maybe here, starting a 4-point monastery and just equalizing this here guy. Actually, yeah, I like it, because then we could get a curve, go over here, try to block the square with tempo, so that could be quite nice. He goes for the top option. By top option, I mean, of course, not the option which is necessarily best, but the option which is at the very top of the board. Nallerheim with a fantastic tile to prolong the city of red, make it much harder to finish, and also to proceed with his own monastery. And now Nallerheim is not going to finish his little city, which would have been the natural move. Of course, he's going to go over here, invade the big city, and all of the spectacular building effort by the Finnish youngster are going to be negated. And again, we have advantage for green, who's now also saving his potential sort of kind of chances to finish the city. His little city, and Larpaattori goes all in. He finishes a little city for Nallerheim. He finishes a little city for Nallerheim and a monastery for Nallerheim, and he's just hoping that he can get himself a good tile to finish his big city. But Nallerheim is going to devote all of his resources to try and stop that from happening. But how exactly do we do this? It's not easy at all. Do we? I don't know, actually. So first of all, as Nallerheim, I definitely burn a lot of time here. And the first question I ask myself, can we actually ignore that city? Because we are already 19 points ahead on the scoreboard. We have the meeple advantage. And maybe if we can just manage to outrun our opponent, that would be ideal. But the answer that I'm coming up with is that we can actually not afford that. Because with these here two cities, Lauri is going to score 30-something points, and then the rest of the position is kind of equal, and then Lauri is going to have the advantage. So from green's perspective, we have to attack the city right now. The question is how exactly. So we could go here and place a meeple on the city cap, trying to look for a tube to connect. Or we could go over here. And this is exactly what Nallerheim does, and it's indeed a bit more precise. The reason it's more precise is because that way they're more connection tiles than they are blocking tiles. I don't know exactly how to call that. Lauri is trying to build two 8-point cities, and his idea is to maybe get a curve and block the square, and that way he's going to block 1-point city of green compared to what, 12 points ruin of red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 12. So that would at least give Lauri something, and that would probably keep the game balanced. Because let's say red is finishing these here cities, catching up on the scoreboard. Red has the mini battle over here, but green has some points which are going to be acquired in this here area of the board. Also, you know, sometimes, just sometimes, Otto is going to get himself a triangle before Larpaattori manages to get himself a curve to protect this square. Yeah, so Nallerheim now, for example, he's not going to bother with getting 1 point for his newly acquired monastery. He's going to do one of two things. Either he's going to go here and start playing against his city, or he's going to do exactly something like this. This move basically restricts a lot of options that red can put here for blocking. In fact, the only damaging tile is something like this. If red goes over here, then of course this square is blocked. There's also one other possibility. There's still a lot of dagger tiles in the deck, and if either side draws such daggers, they're going to go, of course, over here, meeple this, and then wait for one of the 3 remaining cow tiles to connect and finish a 30 or even a 32-point city. Nallerheim gets himself the temporary meeple advantage again, and the temporary scoreboard lead advantage again. Larpaattori is forced to block himself, unfortunately, and Nallerheim gets to connect to the big city, scoring himself 12 extra points. Very bad position here for Larpaattori, but we have to keep fighting. We have to make it more interesting for the sake of viewership. Hi Helge. Hi Eva. FZ is asking, Alexey, have you ever visited Argentina or would you like to? I have not. I would like to very much. There is a vibrant community there, and recently, just actually this week, several days ago, we finished the stream of their finals of one of their 3 national Carcassonne Online leagues. Larpaattori, I think, is making a strategic mistake. I think this is not how you come back into this game. He's playing as if the score is equal, but it really isn't. In this situation, the natural move was best. From red's perspective, why don't we just go over here? Why don't we cover up our city on the left? Why don't we just create a normal threat of completing a big fluffy ball worth 16 points and getting a meeple back? And maybe even dropping like a 12-point farmer over here, getting a dagger, and whoosh! This move seems to be a little bit too slow, and actually what very often happens, this here meeple gets blocked more often than this here meeple. So it's a super common situation that whenever you have specifically a shieldless Dorito, specifically a roadless Dorito tile, if you use it to start blocking, then the meeple on that tile gets trapped. Just watch, just see what happens in the game. I've seen this pattern so many times. Nallerheim again with an ordinary road, and he now goes himself for a 6-point field, which soon is going to turn into 9-point field. Now the block is successful from Larpaattori, and that is good news for Lauri's fans, but the gains from that block are somewhat marginal. Because red's meeple is also blocked, and red has the advantage of kind of developing his meeple further, whereas this here green guy is stuck with just 2 points. But then this here meeple remains undeveloped, and red just failed to create a threat of completing his city, especially now. It's not like super likely that this city is going to turn into something tangible, but Lauri's climbing back elsewhere. He now has a couple of monasteries, which is a powerful scoring mechanism. One more monastery still in the deck to maybe put here or here. He's gonna like go around like this. Maybe now Lauri could consider going here, but no, now he's gonna go for that city. But with this tile, this is a little bit slower. Nallerheim now is going to complete this setup that he has been waiting for. You see, this move, the purpose of this move was not just to drop a 6-point farmer. It was in fact a sequence of 2 moves. Now what green is going to do, he's going to go here, drop a 9-point farmer on this side by completing a shared city, and then also increase the value of his original farmer from 6 points to 9 points. And now, just out of nowhere, Nallerheim has 2 9-point fields. Lauri is trying to create the threat of completing himself a very nice fluffy, how are they called? I think Pac-Man cities or something like this, like the little fluffy ball, for 10 points. And I think as green, we have to address this threat. Now, ideally as green, we want to just go over here and start building monasteries. And it is the last monastery in the deck. It's a very powerful tile. However, the threat of red finishing this here city and dropping a farmer is so severe that I am 99% convinced that Nallerheim is going to sacrifice the monastery, which is exactly what he does, and just use it to restrict the city and, most importantly, prevent the biggest threat in Carcassonne, which would be completing the city and dropping the farmer. Now, it is still possible to complete the city, but it is not possible to drop a farmer for red. Larpaattori now comes up with a very strong move, starting a 6-point road and also attempting to unite the two fields of Nallerheim. Ideally, what Nallerheim would have liked is to get himself some sort of a city tile, like a cow maybe, go over here and separate these two fields. Now this is not possible anymore. And of course, Lauri is going to go over here eventually, making sure that these here guys score only 12 points. For these here 4 completed cities instead of twice 9, 18 points. So that would be a 6-point move here from Lauri. Nallerheim is getting city cap, but also helping Red's monastery in the process by accident. Red himself gets another good tile that would have fit into the square, but fortunately for Green, on the previous move, he managed to further restrict this here square. Now, in fact, only 1 tile fits for completion. Oh, thank you so much, FZ, for your generous super chat. I do appreciate it a lot. Oh, thank you. This week you will have more cities and fewer roads. This is exactly what all we want as Carcassonne players. Larpaattori is thinking whether to invest his last meeple or not, and he chooses that it is worth doing, given that Nallerheim is still ahead with his farmers, I want to say, and with his meeple advantage. But then again, Lauri is up 2 monasteries against his opponent, so this position is pretty close, and it is, I think, going to start turning into Red's favor as Red finishes his 8-point city. So I would not be surprised if Green does something like this and add upon a point to both Red's city and monastery just to prevent an easy completion here. On the other hand, another thing that I'm thinking about is that from Green's perspective, as soon as Red finishes this here city, there will be a 9-point field free for us to take, and we can just take it the next move after Green finishes his city. But Green does not finish his city, instead Green finishes his road. He gets himself a meeple back, still does not connect the 2 fields of Nallerheim. Nallerheim takes the 3rd field for 6 points in advance, whilst also adding himself a monastery point and creating a chance to block the square. So as Larpaattori, we definitely need to count the regular city caps and see if we can finish this city. And I see that there's still 1 of these guys, if not 2 of these guys actually remaining in the deck. No, 1 of these guys. So I believe it is worth going here, getting a point, and then trying to get the last remaining city cap that would finish this city for us. Yeah, in fact, but he does not bother, which is quite interesting. And I think maybe the reason why he doesn't bother is because he figures he can use the regular vanilla city cap to finish this here monastery instead. In fact, the regular city cap is the only tile in the deck that finishes that fits here to complete the monastery for Red, given that all 6 monastery tiles are already in the deck. And a great move here by Nallerheim, blocking the field's connection, not allowing 2 of his farmers to get unified. There is, however, 1 tile that would actually still do the trick. I'm talking about, of course, the 1 remaining starting tile. which has been remaining in the deck for a very, very long time. Remember, we drew 3 starting tiles early on. As a result, this monastery got severely restricted. And there's still this tile here lurking somewhere in the deck. So Lauri might get his 6 points after all. Glovier is saying that red should still be ahead by a couple of points, even with separated fields for green. Yeah, because as we were speaking, the monasteries of red got really developed. They went, in just a couple of moves, from 5+5 to 8+8 points, which is 6 points. Which in a closed position with just 1 meeple per side is definitely not nothing. And Lauri has a scoring tile now. He gets himself 2 points. And then he has still 2 major threats. I believe, if I'm not super mistaken, there still is a dagger that fits into the square that would give him quite a lot of points in a meeple back. Maybe not that many points, but the meeple back will certainly be helpful. And of course, the starting tile that can still give him 6 points. Nallerheim with a curve, presumably going to go here to get himself a monastery point and just in case block this here area. Yeah, I would be very concerned from green's perspective, because red just has a lot of threats. A red can also get himself a vanilla tile and just score 4 points, or just finish his monastery. Green, of course, can also get himself 4 points. But then these here and these here areas make things look very, very good for red. So let's see what Otto comes up with. He does indeed go for the natural move. And it already pays off. As Larpaattori is not able to use this dagger to get himself an extra city point and create an additional threat, he gets himself a dagger tile, but not the kind of dagger tile that he needs for this square. So what do we do from red's perspective? We could just get 1 point. It's not the craziest idea. Just to continue our ruin here. And we can still just wait for one of our critical tiles. In fact, if we go here, there's the vanilla, and then there's this here guy and this here guy, and it's just so much. In fact, there's exactly a 95% chance at this point, from Larpaattori's perspective, that we're going to draw one of our 3 critical tiles. And at this point, it seems that either one or any one of these 3 could be sufficient to win this game. From Nallerheim's perspective, I think he needs like 2 city caps or something, which he does get. And Larpaattori goes for a 5-point road, which makes some sense. But then Nallerheim just going to score. He's going to score either 4 points for the city cap immediately, or he's going to gamble. You know what he could do? He can try and bet the game on the 40% chance of drawing a starting tile. And instead of taking these 2 points, he can go these 4 points. He can go here, take 2 points for this road, and drop a city cap on his field, which he can take later with a starting tile to score 6 further points. And what Otto is trying to calculate right now, whether it is sufficient for him as the win condition. Because I feel that from green's perspective, you have to hope for some sort of critical tile. At this point, you have to commit to one of the available 40%ers. Either we hope that red does not get this tile to finish their city, or we hope that green does not get this tile to unify the field. It has to be one of the 2. So maybe taking these 4 points is not necessarily the strongest move, although I won't be surprised if Otto does it. Maybe there's a more elaborate combo? Maybe, from Otto's perspective, he has to draw both of these city caps, which would be a 10% chance for a win, and then he might go for a different setup. He could go here, score 2 points, then with one of the city caps, go here and score 4 points, and then try to like connect it to his field somehow, although I don't quite sure if that's going to work. And Otto goes for the natural 4-point move. Okay, Larpaattori gets himself a meeple back. And 12 points. Nallerheim with a curve. Yeah, you see, this is the stuff that I was talking about. Nallerheim gets himself a 4-point throw. But I was thinking that maybe if Nallerheim could have gone here for 2 points, then with the curve he would have done this and scored 3 points. And then this city cap would have been part of his field. And now Nallerheim is going to get himself the vanilla, which now he's not able to use to score many points. And Larpaattori gets both of the critical city cap. It's going to be a win for Lauri, an equalization in this match. We're going to see the exact point difference soon enough. Otto did not manage to pull one of his traditional rabbits out of a hat this time. In the meantime, FZ is asking Alexey, why did you take out the visuals from the old game? You broke my heart. Well, to make you feel better, this is a very good question, and this is in fact a temporary measure. For those of you who have been watching my channel a long time, you remember that I prefer the old artwork, the clear artwork for my streaming and gaming, but in 3 weeks, there's the World Championship. And since I'm preparing for the World Championship, and at the World Championship, they use these here new, more complicated visuals, I try to train my eyes to look at these here more complicated visuals. And for the next 3 weeks, you're stuck with me. So after the World Championship, I'm definitely going back to the more convenient and pleasant old visuals with clearer tiles and fewer details. So as we can see, Larpaattori won this, won 18 points, and it might seem that it wasn't close, but in fact it was close. A lot of these 18 points came out from cashing up on his setups. 6 points over here with one tile, then this was like 4 points in a meeple back for this move. So a lot of point scoring towards the very end of the game. Anyway, very nicely played by Lauri here. Managed to withstand the crafty farmers of Nallerheim, and now it's his 1-1. The starting player has won in both of these games, and now we are headed to game 3. So already a bit of a tense position as Nallerheim gets himself the starting player, but Larpaattori was the first one to score 4 points over here. Nallerheim now responds in kind, and we already have 2 meeples in relatively vulnerable positions. These here 2-point road meeple of green is feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and this here city is also looking not that great with a couple of city plus road tiles already gone. But actually, I'm going to say a mistake here for Lauri. The continuation of the city is very nice, but in the opening, you always meeple a curve like this. Really, like, from Red's perspective, because you have to think about this as a little bit deeper than just 1-point road, right? This 2-point road is also connected to this here guy, because imagine if Nallerheim now draws a curve. With any of the 9 curves that he draws, he can go over here and start scoring a 4-point road, and this would protect the square indirectly, because now Red is not going to be able to use any of these 2 squares to create an attacking platform against this here green guy, and then this means that this here green guy survives for longer, and then there is more and more time available for green to draw the devastating road monastery. Go over here, finish the road, go here for 6 points, and then drop a farmer. But a more benign outcome happens from Red's perspective, as simply, look at this, a 1-point move plus a farmer, of course, a very good move for green, but green wishes he had drawn this tile 1 move earlier. He's still going to be feeling some positive emotion as a result of finishing this 4-point road and starting a 4-point monastery, but of course a 6-point monastery would have been even better. In the meantime, despite the scoreboard lead of Nallerheim, he's experiencing some trouble at the top, as a few moves ago this cow tile was promptly used by Lauri to severely restrict this here monastery and city square. In fact, only 2 tiles remaining to fit over here, and Nallerheim now is in a bit of a pickle. In fact, he cannot go over here. He cannot continue his monastery, because as soon as he does, then Lauri is going to get a straight line, go over here, drop this, block this square. So kind of Otto needs to be playing a waiting game here. He needs to first draw this tile and then build up the monastery from that side. But by that time, this monastery could be restricted in other ways. So basically, with this here configuration, it is quite rare that all the three green meeples are going to be surviving. So what Otto has to plan is just how he's going to play this game with a meeple minority. If you remember game 1 from these series, for those of you who are just joining, Otto did great with his meeple minority, winning the game plus 30 despite Lauri having the meeple majority and the field. Lauri now trying to use a curve to pose some restrictions for Nallerheim. Nallerheim, of course, is going to defend. There are some quite easy ways of doing so, and I even wonder why he hasn't placed the obvious move automatically. Well, he just wants to double check everything before making important decisions. Maybe a useful heuristic to live by, especially with the time control where your bank gets replenished. Larpaattori cleans off the city cap for a net neutral point move. Nallerheim enjoying a very nice 12-point field here. It's basically impenetrable when Larpaattori is going to finish this here city. It's gonna become a 15-point field with no obvious attacking platforms. There's, of course, the option to go like this, drop a farmer on the right, but this could be stopped with any of the 5 remaining crossroads. Lauri now continuing his blocking, which is a good move, but from Red's perspective, he also needs to start thinking about point scoring. Nallerheim scores yet 3 more points, and now is again in the lead. Finally, a monastery for Larpaattori. It is a scoring tile. There are no good monastery spots, surprisingly, in this position. It's very close due to these early starting tiles. This is something to learn. So, like, when you start with this here configuration, typically the first half of the game is like very closed, very clunky, not many good monastery spots. Surprisingly, Otto just took a couple, and now Larpaattori is going to go for this, which, yeah, I guess makes sense. It is a square, it is a monastery, like you have 5 meeples, you have to do something. Oh, and it is the first move by Otto, which I don't quite like. Well, he didn't really have a lot of options with this curvy tile, but it does create some opportunities for Lauri. Now that we're starting to run out of crossroads, and Lauri has gotten himself yet another meeple back and the scoreboard lead after finishing a wonderful city at the bottom, maybe Red can now play a bit more riskily and go over here with a curve and drop a farmer and drop another curve, get 4 points for the road and equalize the farm perhaps. But maybe Otto is planning to finish this here city and drop a second farmer for securing the field, which he's probably going to do. And then there's going to be nothing to worry about. Otto with a triangle. Hi Nico, hi Juan. Glovier is saying, I've watched so many of your streams that I've started playing with the old artwork as well. It's warmed my heart. I'm happy to hear that my streams can be of any positive influence. So Otto continues his city. Larpaattori builds up his monastery. Otto is now not bothered with the monastery too much. He instead wants to create a blocking platform against Larpaattori city. Larpaattori with a triple city probably needs to make a play against this here green guy. The two fundamental options are unification or separation with a blocking attempt, and both have their advantages and disadvantages. For example, if we go over here with the tail pointing down, then it's a high variance approach, but given the relatively high number of the city plus road tiles that have already gone out, including 3 out of the 4 starting tiles, maybe that's not the worst idea. On the other hand, if we do this, there are scenarios how Otto gets to finish his city whilst our city continues to suffer. And Larpaattori decides to do none of these things. He just wants to take 2 points. Certainly not something that I expected. Now we're going to see an interesting decision from Otto. Now he has 2 meeples and he could place one of them on the monastery, because suddenly there are good monastery spots on the board. Like there's this one, but the question is, are these spots important for trying to win the game? And Green decides that an extra monastery doesn't do that much for his overall winning chances and simply takes 2 points in an attempt to preserve the meeples, because the long-term plan of Green is to try and do what Lauri did in game 1, but just do it a little bit more efficiently. Namely, control the field, get a second farmer, don't allow your opponent to fight for the field. Juan is saying, thanks for your stream. I reach 500 ELO. This warms my heart. I appreciate you sharing that. FZ is asking, are you going to the Carcassonne World Cup to commentate or play it? I am going to participate this time, yes. I have qualified due to winning the Mind Sports Olympiad back in January. So I am in fact practicing very hard. And part of practicing includes getting used to the new visuals, and y'all are stuck with me. So Larpaattori now makes a fundamental decision. He chooses to drive his city away from the little city of Nallerheim, and I think he's even considering a farmer, and I think he should actually do that. The thing that Lauri is trying to avoid with the consideration of this here farmer, which I believe is going to be placed here eventually, the thing that he's trying to avoid is like Otto finishing here with a city cap and dropping another farmer himself. That would actually be very unpleasant. And so Larpaattori figures out that he needs to have at least a tie on the field in order to have a chance in this game. Nallerheim with an interesting dilemma. There are 2 moves that I would consider. The natural move is to go over here, finish the city, and start a new city cap and sort of threaten to finish the city and drop a farmer. But it is actually quite easily dealt with. So let's say if we do this after all, red just gets a straight line, blocks our city, and then connects to the field anyway. So maybe, from Green's perspective, we're actually not in a rush to finish that city at all. If anything, I would be happy to just self-block and then be in a winning mini battle, because look at this. We have 1 point for a blocked meeple, and this guy's going to have 0 points potentially. So I think the strong move, and one ultimately that Otto is going to decide on, is to go here and to try and equalize Lauri's soon-to-become 10-point city with the idea of getting a Dorito tile, maybe even dropping another farmer, and kind of shielding further away from this guy. The one downside of this move is that it would expose another platform for connection to the field over here at the top, and it is something that Otto definitely sees. But I would prefer my opponent drop a 0-point farmer at the top rather than finishing a 10-point city and then dropping a farmer and then connecting through this here square anyway. So in 1 minute or less, I'm going to see what Green decides here. It's not an obvious decision, but I would be surprised if Green commits to anything else than one of these 2 moves. You know what I'm thinking? Is that if we do this move actually has another advantage, because it improves the quality of the dagger tile that we need to place in this square. So let's say if we go here, then if we get ourselves a dagger tile, we get to go here and not only finish the monastery, but also start a new city. And then we're going to be renewing the threat of going over here and dropping a farmer. Moreover, there are some interesting situations where, never mind, this is a very interesting move by Otto. Actually, I didn't see that idea. and he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to continue his farm, and he also wants to finish himself a city, and he wants to shield away from this red guy. Now, it's not gonna quite work, I think, because red can still go here, and red can then go here and drop a farmer and overrun the field, so this could be quite dangerous. Otto now might have to go over here to deny red a farming platform. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. So a lot that's going to decide the game is not just about scoring points. A lot of the play in the next few moves is going to be connected with understanding field geometry. So Otto goes a very, very different route. He just wants to drop another farmer after finishing a city. Oh, this is very double-edged. This could be quite interesting. From Larpaattori's perspective, is it crazy to do this and drop yet another farmer here, and then try to climb with 2 farmers all the way like this? It could be crazy because something like a cow tile or a hourglass tile could go here and block the access to fields, but Lauri could recognize that none of these 7 blocking tiles are in the deck, because look at these, all of them are on the board. So there's a lot like road tiles and stuff, and Lauri, with a very interesting move, he instead goes for yet another city and creates another threat. I like the aggression here. It's not just a 6-point move. First of all, even just as a 6-point move, it is decent. But then we can get a couple city caps. We can get the last Dorito. We can get 20 points and say lights out. Nallerheim finishes the city. Larpaattori finishes yet another city and drops a farmer, as we expected. Nallerheim with a curve. Presumably going to try and commit some blocks. There's still a few tiles that fit into this square. There's the one Dorito. There's like 2 city caps or something. So that's a lot of tiles. We have to take care of that square from Green's perspective. Nallerheim cannot do much. He instead... Oh, that's interesting. So Lauri doesn't even bother. He instead just wants to take 10 immediate points. Nallerheim wants to try and equalize the farm. The little farm on the left. Larpaattori with a city cap. Interesting decision here. Do we just score as much as possible by going over here? Or do we actually create the threat of trying to complete our city here? Here, city cap, Dorito, we win. So it looks like now red is going to need to decide on his win condition. Is it outrunning, or is it trying to threaten a medium-sized completed city at the bottom? Helge is saying even and tense games today. Agreed. Well, maybe with the exception of the second half of the first one, but the second and the third game are certainly quite spectacular. Red goes the outrunning route. Decides that he can win without necessarily threatening the completion of a city. And it could be possible. He's 26 points ahead. He's only like 1 monastery and a ruin, actually just 1 monastery down. There's, of course, this big field, which is in the sole possession of Green. But now if you think about it, Red's fields are also 15 points at the moment. 9 for this guy and 6 for this guy. Lauri can probably get like 4 points on average for each meeple. And maybe that could be enough. I genuinely don't know. I still feel that maybe we do need something over here after all. And if we equalize the field, then we win. So from Nallerheim's perspective, do we just try to score here or here? Or do we actually go here and try and create a blocking threat against this square? As Green, I would also consider going over here, trying to prevent my opponent from completing a big city, but then our opponent has shown that they're not interested in even trying, so I wouldn't waste 2 points on being paranoid. And Nallerheim simply eliminates a city cap, which is not in his field, which Larpaattori could have taken. And now, what do we do? From Red's perspective, there are options. We can just go here and score 5 points and try and just build up a second ruin. We could just add 2 points to this guy. Or we could do something more creative. But I have no idea what that something could be. Since the city at the top is only worth 6 points, it is not worth invading. So probably this is the move that I would decide on. Also, I wanted to point out that actually this here city cap was a slight imprecision. It was a bit stronger for Larpaattori to turn it that way. Because then this here move by Nallerheim, which he used to break the city cap, would not have been possible. Because if this were to happen, try to imagine this, Larpaattori with this tile could go over here, start a 5-point city, and also block this here squares. So I think Red didn't see the potential connection between these here 2 tiles, even though they're so far apart. Yes, and the highest scoring move is indeed what we see from the Finnish youngster, Nallerheim. Equalizes the field on the left and actually creates a pretty severe threat of getting himself a city cap and dropping another farmer and overrunning the other field, and this is exactly what happens. 6 points for Nallerheim, only 20 points behind on the scoreboard. Larpaattori with the last vanilla city cap. Surely we have to not do that? I really don't understand why Red just hates the idea of invading the main farm like the natural most move in the world. He's playing as if he's like super far ahead, but he isn't. So there's a city cap for Lauri, which he's going to use for what? For finishing a big city or threatening the completion thereof? For maybe trying and block some squares in this here area. It also needs to be noted that there is still a monastery tile available that fits into this square. So Otto could go here and win the field on the left in addition to the big field on the right. Yeah, and Larpaattori is really thinking about this. The one positive aspect about drawing this tile, well, one of the many positive aspects, is that this square is not going to be completed, and neither this square. So green, in fact, got stuck with all of his 3 early blocked meeples. But also, this is quite interesting how Otto plays his meeple disadvantage, right? Because green was never really having a meeple shortage in the game. He had pretty much 1 meeple in hand at all times. And the field was taken care of just by pure geometrical principles. Especially this here idea of indirectly continuing his city was super, super interesting. And even though both sides have dropped a similar number of farmers, Red now needs to win a coin flip for the last Dorito to try and equalize. Yeah, and so Red is now thinking, can I finish this city maybe? I think it's definitely worth a try. Yeah, and I think actually the way to do this could be placing this tile like that in the vulnerable position, and they hope that Otto draws something, and then we draw the last rose tile maybe? Like, you definitely want to create threats, and you definitely don't want to lose on time. 13-12, and this is exactly what happens. Lauri, I think, notices what he was supposed to do. Otto now has to spend a move on blocking the city, which is not nothing. Surely you have to do that. There are no dagger tiles remaining, But if you leave the city unattended, there is in fact one tile that fits into that square. But Otto is thinking about this one. He might be recounting tiles, but I think what he's probably doing is assessing whether he can just allow his opponent to complete the city. But then I'm not exactly sure what he should be doing instead. Maybe going over here and making it harder for the red guy to backdoor in the secondary field? Could be an option. Nallerheim on ajattelemassa tavallisen tien kädellä. En mä tiedä, mikä on päässänsä. Less than a minute remaining. I'm trying to look for some other ideas. Yeah, he goes for the natural move after spending a full minute. So this is quite interesting time management. Lauri gets himself a monastery, which is supposed to be a huge relief, because this means that this here connection is not possible. And from Lauri's perspective, if he gets the last crossroad tile, then he can actually go here and block this connection. Otto's still going to have the 6 points over here. And I don't get this. I don't get this at all. Why is Lauri trying to block his own farmer? Just why? Okay, I can see why. But then now there's the opposite problem, right? Because okay, now like the field on the left is equal, but then Otto can get the last Dorito tile, go over here, and then with this guy over on the main field. And I'm pretty sure Otto is just going to do everything to secure the win. Maybe just going over here, dropping a farmer for an insurance would do the trick. Yeah, I feel like Otto's geometrical understanding or understanding of the geometry of the position just managed to swindle Lauri in this one. I'm not quite sure about the remaining tiles. I'm pretty sure that the players know this better. The one thing that I do know is that there's a crossroads remaining, which shouldn't appear to be too relevant in this position. And by crossroad, of course, I mean the roads tiled. 1, 2, 3, yes. You know why he's going there? Because there's still plenty straight lines remaining. And actually, it looks like Otto is not only going to equalize, but he's going to even win the field. You know what I was thinking maybe from Lauri's perspective, which he missed? Instead of this maneuver, he could have actually gone over here and dropped a farmer like this, and with an unblockable straight line, with like a 80-something% chance, be able to connect all the way like this. Yeah, I think that was definitely a miss from Lauri. Again, this is the maneuver, curve here, farmer, whoop, like this. And then we even threatened to get a Dorito and over on the field. This is quite hard to spot because this here maneuver is not a standard maneuver because it very often gets blocked if there's a crossroads, except that there's no simple crossroads remaining in the deck. So then it would have been basically unstoppable. Yeah, and now I don't think there's really all that much that Lauri can do. This is not a particularly good tile for him. He can drop a farmer, but I don't know where. Yeah, he just takes himself a road. Nallerheim takes a road. Nallerheim takes a big field on the left and a big field on the right. And Lauri is gonna lose so hard. He scores himself 4 points, but in fact, this is not even his strongest move. In fact, what Lauri should have done is gone over here to at least make sure that he loses one big field instead of 2 small fields. So this would have netted him 4 points extra compared to what happened in the game. And yeah, looks like Otto managed to swindle his way in this one. And from Lauri's perspective, it seems that he kind of didn't quite until the end decide on his win condition, like whether he's going to go the outrunning route, whether he's going to fight for the field. He sort of did a little bit of both, and neither really worked. Now we're going to see what the score difference is soon enough. Oh, these fields are big. 9 points. Like, it's not even that big. Like, it's not even that big. So totally winnable game for Lauri. And by the way, with this Dorito tile, like if he just goes here, that's already only a 5-point difference. Yeah, and I believe maybe this was the miss that made it much more difficult for the youngster. So Otto 2, Lauri 1. If Otto wins the next one, he's going to be the new Finnish Online Carcassonne champion, but it is Lauri who's going to be the starting player again, and with that get a bit of a statistical advantage. And a great start here for Lauri as a red meeple descends immediately on a small city, and 4 points are instantly transferred to Lauri's scoreboard. Nallerheim with a standard road move. Larpaattori is going to not equalize the road, instead try to break it a little bit, but Nallerheim is going to take another road for nearly 6 points. Maybe not something we want to be leaving back too often, but at least the temporary restriction is not going to be of much help as Nallerheim gets himself the crossroad tile and gets 2 points on the scoreboard. Straight line for Lauri. A 3-point road is going to happen on the left. Anything else in this position, I would be shocked. Of course, at the start, players just going to try and meeple the most valuable feature available to them. Nallerheim with a city cap makes an annoying move to try and restrict the meeple of red, but another city cap for red solves the issue immediately. 6 points ahead advantage is on the scoreboard for Lauri, but Nallerheim gets himself a road meeple back, whilst also helping Lauri's city a teeny tiny bit. Another road that was just threatened is being unthreatened, so Nallerheim already 3 points ahead on the scoreboard. As the 2016 world champion Vladimir Kovalev has uttered in a famous interview, don't underestimate the importance of roads. Nallerheim scoring yet another city cap. Now this looks like more of a fun open position, a rather simple position. There's going to be a good 9 or 12 point field over here. Probably each side is going to drop a farmer there at some point. But what do we do with this exact tile? Nallerheim chooses to take 2 points and maybe exert a little bit of pressure on this meeple. And the first monastery is drawn by Larpaattori, but I think he plays a bit too quickly because this is a vulnerable spot. Like, Nallerheim can just go over here and drop a farmer. That'll be so annoying for red. First of all, the first farmer of the game goes to green. Larpaattori gets the best tile in the deck to bail out and even equalize the farm. Nallerheim gets himself a 6-point monastery, and now, if red gets himself a Dorito tile. He even gets to drop himself another farm, and Nallerheim is going to equalize that farm. Larpaattori is now trying to block this city of green, so roughly an equalish position, but an advantage for green due to this strategically placed early farmer. Or maybe not. Maybe just a teeny advantage for green due to the 1 extra point. Actually, scratch that. I think it's kind of equal. So 3 points extra for Nallerheim. The most natural move. It also helps for him a little bit that he's breaking that road. Now, a restriction, very timely restriction move here from Larpaattori, trying to make it harder to place another monastery. In fact, to make it impossible to place another monastery without risking the fate of both of the monasteries. Of course, this here square is available, but then the build-up of the monastery is awkward because from green's perspective, green has to get a city tile first and then place a tile in this square. Because let's say if green goes here right now, then Larpaattori is just going to do this and then block. So that's why green makes a move which indirectly protects his monastery. So he found some marginal value from his curve. Quick point tile for Larpaattori. Very equal position. Nallerheim finishes a shared city. Larpaattori has a nasty idea. Why don't we just go here, prolong our opponent's city, help our monastery, but then try to block that city? And that way we're threatening a long-term meeple advantage which could be useful for an ensuing field fight. There is a chance that it's not going to work, but the penalty for that is quite small. The worst we can lose is like 1 point. And I think it's not quite the idea. It's not quite the idea that we want to do. In fact, it's not a very strong move at all. Nallerheim just going to score here, pick up this city, or even pick up this city if he's feeling extra greedy. But Otto chooses to elect a very non-confrontational approach and just start a new city far away from the action. Larpaattori is blowing this game wide open by starting a new city in a shared field and dropping yet another city cap. And now he gets himself a curvy tile and he's going to drop yet another farmer. This is Larpaattori's idea. He wants to leverage his temporary meeple advantage. The temporary meeple advantage is due to the fact that this here monastery is stuck for a while. And so his idea is like he's going to drop a farmer here right now. Then he wants to finish the city, drop another farmer, and then win himself a 15-point field. But no. What's with the timing? Really? I understand that there's still only 2 curves remaining in the deck. But like from red's perspective, you have to understand that if green gets gets a straight line and goes here and meeples the farm and then restricts our city, we're toast. We have no field connection platform. So it is actually extremely fortunate, and I don't say this very often, that it is extremely fortunate from red's perspective that green drew a monastery as opposed to something else, because green really wanted any road tile just to go over here and take the control of the farm. So what Larpaattori now I think has to do is again just sacrifice the monastery, go here and drop a farmer. But I understand the desire not to sacrifice monasteries. He used the monastery as a monastery. Can't blame him for that. This is going to create a secondary field for Otto and some additional winning chances. Because now, if Otto manages to get just a bit more quick points, then what can happen in this game is that green can concede the field at the top. Then green can enjoy the secondary 12-point field or 9-point field at the bottom. And then just live with that. On the other hand, if Larpaattori is not going to claim the field at the top, I mean, why don't we just do it? Like, we just go here and drop a farmer, and then Lauri is in dire straits. Yep, and here comes the farmer, and I have no good advice for red. I have no idea how you win this game from this point. This is actually quite decent, yeah, so you want to create another field connection platform. And I guess maybe you just want to draw both remaining crossroads that fit into this square? I guess that could be a plan, but like our city at the top is so restricted. The monastery of Nallerheim is all but dead. We get ourselves a secondary field, but I think it's not quite enough. Because the way counterfield or secondary fields typically work is that it is a way for the side that's winning on the scoreboard to elect a non-confrontational approach for securing the victory. So we just allow for our opponent to have the main field, and then we just take the compensation on the secondary field. It doesn't really work the other way around. Lauri cannot afford to lose the main field unless he somehow finds a way to draw a lot of city caps, which would allow him to develop his secondary field. Let's see if that's what happens. From Lauri's perspective, it looks like we just want to score a little bit and maybe not do too much to the board shape. Probably this is the move. Like, it's a 4-point road. We have 3 crossroads remaining. And we need to draw the crossroads anyway because our opponent needs them. So this looks certainly like the move. But I hope that Lauri is not going to do something crazy like going over here. Because so many players are going to do that. It's like, 6-point field, me protect, me go here. But no. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. The secondary field is not big enough to be investing a second meeple. I'm sure that red has enough time on his clock to make the right decision, and he indeed does so. Nallerheim with a city tile with not too many good uses. I don't really have some good recommendations. Each move has a downside. This could be... No, this is not very good. Maybe something like this, sort of pre-building a ruin which our monastery controls, but nothing too much that we can do to the board shape. This square is permanently blocked, by the way, by Otto a couple of moves ago, so just to cut off this field for good from the rest of the world. Maybe as Nallerheim we can... I'm not sure, go here and restrict the road whilst also restricting the monastery spot. The issue with that move is that it's not that much of a restriction. And by restricting the monastery spot, we accidentally create an opportunity for an 8-point city in our opponent's field. So all the candidate moves that I can come up with have noticeable downsides. Maybe just go at the top. Maybe that's the move. We go here and we try and permanently block that city. I guess sometimes it gives back a field connection, like if our opponent gets a starting tile, drops a farmer here, gets a road Dorito, connect like this, but it is a marginal enough tile. Yeah, and look at this. So Otto does go for the road restriction, and I think Lauri is going to take advantage of that at some point. Not right now. I don't like this move by Lauri. I mean, it makes sense. But I think as Lauri, we actually don't really want to fill the square. Because we're helping our opponent's monastery more than we're helping our monastery. I think as Lauri, we just maybe go here. And create that 8-point city in our field. Yeah, Nallerheim decides to equalize the field. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, okay. Well, Nallerheim is going to equalize the field now, maybe? He kind of needs the meeples for something else, but the field at the bottom starts looking pretty good. So in fact, Larpaattori has done an excellent job to climb out of this. Yeah, you know what? Like, this field is actually not that big. It's going to be 15 points after this here city is completed. And the bottom field is already 12. So it's a playable position for red, and red has also now set himself up another monastery. There's still 2 of those in the deck. So green desperately needs a curve to block this spot for good, but the curve is not what he gets. So maybe we do drop a farmer over here with the idea that if red gets himself a monastery for 7 points, then we get the compensation in the form of instant access for this field. One minute on the clock for Otto. Again, I really don't have a lot of candidate moves with this straight line. Ah! Maybe instead of going here, maybe we go here instead. This move also makes a lot of sense. It pre-builds a road which we are more likely to take advantage of with a starting tile or something like this. And Larpaattori is now trying to break that plan. So what do we do as Otto? We finish the city, the monastery, and start a city. That's wonderful for us. +7 on the scoreboard. Larpaattori plays it safe and gets himself a meeple back. Nallerheim, now with the Dorito tile, he's actually going to threaten a lot. How about we go here and drop a farmer? Oh, that would be so annoying to deal with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Still one curve remaining. So it's quite difficult to block that connection. And there's still a couple of Doritos available. There's still 2 road Doritos, for example, for us to finish this city. Like, this is so huge. Instead, he goes a different approach. He chooses to go for a ruin and try to just get himself more points. But this allows Larpaattori to just go here and threaten a city of his own. No, you just didn't. Okay, this is quite interesting. So Larpaattori basically sacrifices the city at the top just to block the shared square next to his monastery, which I don't believe is a correct prioritization. Nallerheim with the last city cap of the game. So we saw that red did not take advantage of this here concession. Actually, red can do that. Green can do that if he so chooses, but I probably wouldn't. Oh, okay. That makes sense. In a recent practice session with Otto, we talked about some general strategic points, and he told me that he values a lot the creation of threats. Even if a threat is not successful, then the fact that your opponent is forced to divert resources is so important that creating threats is good. So here, Larpaattori really doesn't have many options. I guess he can go here, possibly even with another farmer, but that would be only a partial restriction of this here city. Still good enough, he decides. But is he going to drop a farmer there? I might. Well, actually, I don't know. I might, given the fact that we still have other sources where we can get a meeple back. Namely, we still have the 2 crossroads. How we can go here. And this city, despite our best efforts to break it, is actually still alive, as there's still a couple of Doritos available. 1 roaded Dorito and 1 regular here. Well, the roaded Dorito is drawn by Nallerheim, who now effectively blocks the city. Yeah, and look at this. It's so painful. Like, Lauri would have finished his city, and he would have dropped a farmer, but now it ain't gonna work. Instead, he makes it harder for Nallerheim to drop a farmer, but I don't think Nallerheim even needs that, potentially. Because again, still two tiles that fit into this square. So, what is Otto gonna do in this one? I don't see a particular threat that we can create. Maybe going here could be somewhat helpful, or just doing something in this area to avoid a counter farmer by red at some point. But I can only see marginal improvements to the position. Oh, another move that I actually do see is going over here And this would increase the value of our potential Dorito. So it would actually make it harder for Larpaattori to claim this part of the ruin. Oh, but instead Otto just wants to drop a city cap in his field, which makes a lot of sense. So the Dorito has been drawn by Nallerheim. His ruin is now huge. It's worth 11 points. It is the second most valuable, well, the third most valuable feature on the board after the two fields. Otto has the meeple advantage and the advantage on the scoreboard as well. So rough situation for Larpaattori. Sergey is asking if I could please fix the score. What's with it? Because I can't see it at the moment. But I'll just look at it in a second. But I can say that Otto is leading 2-1 in this best of 5. Yeah, really. Oh, okay, we just need to move things a little bit. Whoops. Whilst the players are thinking. Yeah, there we go. It's 2-1. I'm gonna be. Whoa! No, let's not do that. Basically, gonna be close enough. Like that. Yeah, what else? So. Larpaattori actually made a good move. I really like this straight line. It sets up additional farming opportunities if Otto is going to draw one of his crossroads tiles. Nallerheim starts a new city. But the main purpose of this move is, of course, just to protect his field a little bit. Larpaattori cannot do much in terms of fields. But he can expand one of his farms, the 3-point farmer at the bottom right, which seems like the way to go. Note that there appears to be one straight line available. So it seems that with a combo of something like a starting tile plus a straight line, it is possible to equalize this field through this here area. And this was one of the purposes of this here move by Larpaattori, but Nallerheim is going to draw the last tile that fits into this square. So this significantly reduces all the farming options. Now Nallerheim is going to go over here, closing down the field for good. I really doubt we're going to see another move there. There are some alternatives as to what green could play. But yeah, it seems to me that Lauri, in order to win, just has to draw both crossroads. One minute and 20 seconds on Nallerheim's clock. From his perspective, the two crossroads are still in the deck, translating to a 60% chance to drawing one. And I think from Otto's perspective, what he wants to try and do, and he wants to try and see if there is a win path for him in case he doesn't draw either of crossroads. So maybe what we could do, instead of protecting our field, we could just leave it alone. And we could just go here and try to connect the field of our opponent. And this is exactly what he does. So Larpaattori has the first crossroads. So we have a coin flip for this one. And we know that he's not going to go over here. I guess the main option for red is to just score and hope for the other crossroads. Because from red's perspective, there's already a 50% chance of that, and it looks like it's good enough. An alternative that red could play is set up some sort of farming option in case his opponent does draw a crossroads, but then we could also get outrun. Because we need to remember that we're losing on the scoreboard. I have a feeling that all of that is coming down to the crossroads. 40 seconds on Lauri's clock. The default move, of course, is to just go over here for 3 points, finishing a road, starting a new one, that sort of stuff. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think we do this regardless, because like we have a lot of good setups for expanding our fields. So that could work. But then again, from Otto's perspective, they are city caps too. Like we could do no. Oh, come on. We place a meeple here always. Lauri. He's gonna end up with a meeple surplus so unbelievably often. Because like I think all of the remaining tiles are quick point tiles, the majority of them. Yeah, so it feels like Lauri just squandered 2 points. Of course. Told ya. I so told ya. Like, Lauri's top scoring move is to go here, or here, or here for 7 points. And he's gonna end up with a meeple extra, and like this guy... I'm not sure if the 2 points are gonna be decisive, but they might. Now, we know that from Lauri's perspective, he has to draw the last crossroads no matter what. He just wants to match it with the best possible move. Expanding one of his fields seems to be the way to go. 9 seconds, 2 seconds. Of course, he plays the move. Nallerheim with the monastery. So that means that the crossroads does belong to Larpaattori, with which he's going to score 4 points. And somehow, he ends up with a superior field. Will that be enough to eke out to win in this game? I haven't quite calculated all the points. If he loses by like 1 point, that's gonna be tragic. Yeah, so here's the scoring. Here's the other scoring as we predicted. And now we're gonna find out who won the game. But maybe the astute arithmeticians among my viewers already know the outcome. But it's probably like somewhere within 5 points. So the points for incompleted features are counted, and I believe that Otto has it by a couple or so. So, Larpaattori is saying in the chat they just eked out to win, and they're asking if a 3-minute break is good for them. Honestly, I could also use one. So Lauri wins by 2 points. I still maintain that like this was actually a gigantic mistake. These 2 points could have mattered. You know in which scenario? So what should have happened if Lauri meeples this, he has 2 points extra because we just spend a meeple. Why don't we spend a meeple when we have unspent meeples? In the scenario where it is Otto who draws this here tile instead of Lauri, then we have a problem, I think. Yeah? Okay, this tile gave Lauri 7 points, right? If Lauri gets not that tile, but something else, let's say a monastery. Oh, but I guess if Lauri gets a monastery, he can score 4. Yeah, basically, it's a bit of a complicated endgame, but like I think you have to meeple this road, and then it gives you one additional winning scenario. So you win if you draw the crossroads plus monastery combo, but the monastery is your last tile. I think we'll have to look at this endgame a little bit later. Honestly, my voice is frankly as tired as the player's mind, so we're gonna take a quick 2-minute break for hot beverages, and we're gonna be right back after this. Wait, are they already playing? Oh, no, they just created the table. So let's just go back to their profile and keep refreshing. Oh, thank you, Nicola, for the super chat. Hot beverages on me. Oh, thank you so much. I will make sure to enjoy that hot beverage. In a minute. See, we are back again, and the decider should have started. A reminder to you all that this is the best of 5. We're in the finals of the Finnish National Online Carcassonne Championship. Nallerheim 2, Larpaattori 2. This is for all the marbles, and ooh, it has been quite many tiles already played, so let's start making sense of this position. Nallerheim, the starting player with the green meeples, has 4 points on the scoreboard. Larpaattori with the red meeples has 6. Nallerheim, however, has the first monastery of the game, and some threats scattered around the board. So this is with 2 curves. A 6-point monastery waiting to happen. This is a potentially 12-point city, but not that dangerous since it has 2 attacking platforms. And this is a 4-point road, again waiting to happen, but this here move by Lauri is so annoying. With only 4 crossroads remaining this early in the game, this meeple could become in quite some trouble, and that's why it's a very nice defensive move from Nallerheim. It is restricting this road, yes, but it's restricting it in ways which makes it unblockable in some damaging permanent way. Larpaattori with a city cap. Presumably a 4-point move is quickly going to be played. After a few seconds, this is exactly what happened. Starting tile for Otto. Not many great places to use it. He uses it to start a new city, which actually makes a lot of sense. You definitely don't... Yeah, by the way, actually an instructive moment. So many of even expert players wants to go here or here with the idea of just developing our road and monastery, but this is the wrong tile to do so. Otto recognizes that we don't want to break the synergy of these two road ends, and we want to wait for two curves to go all the way like this, or for a curve plus crossroads. And with that way, we're forcing our opponent to draw a straight line and go over here and try to break it, which would be them investing resources. Speaking of breaking things, the city at the top of Nallerheim's map has been almost broken, but with a couple of timely drawn city cap, he's going to renew the threat, and Larpaattori really doesn't have a lot of options. He's going to try and restrict that city, but still plenty of city caps that go over here. Nallerheim could be in the lead again after this, and correct, of course, placement of the tile, but Nallerheim does not get a city cap, and he instead gets himself a defensive move. Larpaattori is now trying to maybe block this permanently. There are still 4 tiles that fit into this square, which means that it will need to be attended to. But maybe not right now, as there are other candidate moves available. Option 1, we can go over here and just try to equalize the city at the bottom if we want to keep things nice and low variance. Option 2, we can just keep things non-confrontational and get a 4-point move by finishing our city. That way, we're also creating a potentially 9-point field at the bottom, which only we can claim because we are the side with the long-term meeple majority. Or at least with a temporary meeple majority, but enough so that it's going to take actually green quite a long time to consolidate. Thank you, Pro Rock TV, pointing out about the noise. Do let me know if it now became better. At least it should have. Nallerheim with the monastery, and look at this, because of their meeple shortage, they're forced to develop their monastery in a suboptimal way. Well, I'm not sure about forced, but at least that's what they chose to do. Now their road is getting threatened, so they might choose to go here and defend it. Or maybe not. Maybe they better off go here and start breaking this city, whilst also protecting their own. Or they could go over here and build their city directly. So there's several good moves here from Green's perspective, and he decides to start breaking the city. Larpaattori makes an annoying move, but maybe not the one I would prioritize. Of course, it will be unpleasant for Nallerheim to have this temporary restriction, but I don't know, spending a shielded tile like that seems to me a little bit extra. Otto's now threatening cities left and right. City plus road tile is going to give him 14 points at the top. City plus field tile is going to give him a city plus field city 14-point city at the bottom. Larpaattori with a dagger tile. Maybe we go here, start a 4-point road and just create an additional platform of attack. On the other hand, if we do that, it could backfire if our opponent draws the last remaining Giraffe's next tile, if we manage to extend the city and take advantage of the empty city cap that I was suggesting to leave around. Tough for Larpaattori. Maybe here to start a new city, even though it's super blockable. The idea is that if Nallerheim succeeds with his 2 constructions here, we get maybe a couple tiles here, and then we're still in the lead. This is a reasonable move. The idea is to start a new city and also block this square to just enjoy a winning mini battle. Otto with monastery stacking, which is mildly dangerous, as a cow tile could nicely go over here and restrict both monasteries, but Otto knows that since he has so many threats, he can actually afford to lose a couple of meeples and still be ahead, and he doesn't even have to lose that many meeples. He does finish a 12-point city at the bottom. Larpaattori goes for a very early farmer, maybe not in quite the place I'd be expecting. Otto surely is going to either pick off this empty city cap or go here and threaten something more massive. A third option is, of course, to go here to try and protect the monasteries a little bit, but the problem with that move is that it would be somewhat restrictive too, as there are only 3 straight lines remaining. So ideally what we want to do here is we want to get something like a curve first and a straight line later. This move by Otto I don't fully understand. I guess the idea is to get a monastery point plus do a bit of extra damage over here. Lauri was trying to block Green's city, and Green successfully drew a tile for indirect defense. Oh, actually, scratch that, because it's a complete block. Because Larpaattori drew the last rose tile. So this is quite fortunate for Lauri. Nallerheim is taking care of some city caps left around for him, but Lauri just keeps scoring in other ways. This is a rather narrow position. Otto has a blocked meeple over here and a severely restricted meeple over here, which is going to take him quite some time. Now we know that last game Otto needed the same crossroads. He didn't get either one of those, so maybe this game the board game arena developers are going to be a bit more friendly to him. And then also these monasteries, like if he gets one meeple back, he's probably in a good position again. Because this farmer for 6 points, it really doesn't do all that much. Otto also drew a really good tile with so many opportunities. He can create some threats. Instead, he just does normal stuff. Ooh, goes for a farmer. That's interesting. That actually works well. Surprisingly, a 6-point farm is the most valuable feature on the board. Nicola is asking, would it not be good for Larpa to take the city with 2 shields? I agree. I think there was an opportunity, because even though this here city is blockable, just the creation of that threat, especially when your opponent has so much other stuff they have to deal with, would have been good. So maybe just being a bit more patient with a couple of Doritos would have been a good idea for Lauri, but he chose to save his meeples for something potentially juicier. Starting tall for Larpaattori. That's a very good move. Threatening an 8-point city. Otto cannot do anything about that. Oh, by the way, I kind of forgot to mention at the start that in addition to prestige and eternal glory, there is a more tangible prize for this first place. And this is the direct participation in the big international Carcassonne Champions League. The second place of this national championship still can have the chances they go to the national qualifier, or not to the national qualifier, but one of the international qualifiers. But it is not as clear-cut as going to the main stage directly. And so this is something that Otto will be very, very willing to pursue, given the fact that in the last year's qualification, he narrowly missed his CCL spot by losing a memorable game against Australia's Me Got No Skill, which was extensively analyzed on this channel. And I think at this point is Otto's like one of the most memorable games ever. And if he does want to go to the Champions League directly, he will have to finish one of these 2 monasteries, I believe. And he protects them very nicely. He chooses to not meeple the monastery because he has discipline. He does not want to spend his last meeple. But this city is still a threat. Lauri is still ahead on the scoreboard. However, Green has the better developed farmer. Now, Lauri has 6 points over here and maybe a chance to get 9 points by going away through this curve. But this square is kind of vulnerable. It could be blocked. Well, actually, Lauri can just go here and expand this field. I think he should do that. I think it will be a good idea. An alternative for Lauri is to go here and limit Otto's field instead, because with this here move, what Otto set up and what he's going to cash up on is the expansion of his field using these here city caps. It is always quite satisfying, you know, when you start a field and you can expand the field without drawing any additional city caps. You just connect it to another field, and Otto chooses a more aggressive approach, which I also like. He's going to complete the field expansion a little bit later. Instead, he just sets up some scoring opportunities on his field and also tries to meeple a monastery potentially, complete a monastery potentially. Doesn't quite connect on the tile draw as Larpaattori gets a starting tile, 8 points on the scoreboard, and meeple back. This is looking very good for red here. A lot in this game is dependent on the timing. Otto really needs a curve. The problem for him is that there are only 2 of those remaining in the deck. Otto could also use a crossroads, actually, just like in the last game. That's a strong move. Expanding his field, making it a little bit more difficult for Larpaattori to complete his city at the top, or at least harassing that city a little bit, and at the very least not allowing Lauri to easily equalize the field. But from Lauri's perspective, we don't have to necessarily equalize in order to win. We could just start outrunning with our meeple majority. We can take 3 points over here. A greedier alternative is that we can go here, meeple this long road, and hope to draw something that goes over here. We could also take 2 points outright and then try to expand our field a little bit later. We could also go here, actually, and drop a farmer. And with either one of the 2 remaining straight lines like this, or one of the 2 remaining curves like this, we connect to Otto's farm. That's a very neat move geometrically. I think it could work quite well. But I guess at this point we need to decide, like, what kind of advantage do we have as Lauri? Are 17 points on the scoreboard good enough? It might seem good enough, but if Otto suddenly gets 2 monasteries meeple back, that's 18 points for him, and suddenly we're trailing, and our opponent has all kinds of threats as well. They have the better field. But for now, a waiting move, just 3 points are good enough. Otto's probably going to expand his field now to get himself the 3 extra points. Maybe he's a bit worried about the vulnerability of said field, but I wouldn't be. Because let's say if we do go for that move, yeah, and he chooses to do so, this is already 3 points for this here city cap, then we can maybe even go here and just later make it impossible to connect. But a curve for Larpaattori. Larpaattori just keeps drawing in Nallerheim's tiles. So I expect a red meeple here very soon. This is exactly what happens with the meeple majority. He can afford to do that. Otto now with a city cap tile, and it's a big dilemma, right? You really want to go here, score 9 points, and expand your field. But this also gives back a field connection platform, so I think we still do it. I think we go here and we just pray that Lauri does not have a city cap in hand. And then with a different tile, we go here and try to eliminate the field connection platform that we just created. And Otto just bites his tongue and does it. Minus 14 on the scoreboard only with a superior field, and Larpaattori does not get a city cap, but he gets a city tile, and maybe we sacrifice the integrity of this meeple. We just go here anyway. Use the platform. It looks like a high prob field connection. There's still plenty of road tiles available. Otto's not going to be able to block. I think we have to do that. But I can see how Lauri might have reservations about dropping a 0-point farmer with the lead on the scoreboard. You just still gotta remember about your opponent's monasteries and superior fields. Like, Otto's still slightly ahead if we forget about the meeple advantage. He chooses to just take 3 points, which means that he goes full-on outrunning route, which is incredibly interesting. And now Otto also has to think. So my natural move that I want to do is just go here to eliminate that field connection platform. But then if our opponent didn't use the field connection platform with this tile, well, maybe they're not going to use it with another tile. So maybe we just go here or here and just expand the field even further, without having to worry too much about geometry. Note that this move also created some alternative field entry routes if it becomes necessary for Larpaattori, like with 2 straight lines or something like this, and I believe there are exactly 2 remaining at this point. This, of course, will be blockable, but now less so. So that's why Otto goes for points. Well, curvy tile for Larpaattori, and I think he might consider dropping a farmer now, even though it's not like the most high prob farmer in the world. There are enough tiles for sure to connect. It's a bit harder to block since Otto now, you know, did his thing with the 4 points. Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do. Helgi saying the dagger is the last cap. Oh, thank you for confirming that. That's actually is an important piece of information. Well, there are, however, other city tiles, which Larpaattori could use to go here. But then, again, from Otto's perspective, sometimes you don't have to make the best move. You just need to make the best move against a particular opponent. And if Red has shown that they're not interested in the farm, even with a very high prob tile, well, maybe they're not going to be interested in the farm at all. But something tells me that Lauri is about to change his mind. Well, actually, you know what? I just remembered. There's a monastery still available. So a tile that goes here for 8 points would be devastating for Otto because it would connect the inferior 9-point field with the superior 15-point field of Otto. On the other hand, if Larpaattori goes here with the last curve, and I believe it is the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8... Maybe the penultimate, I didn't quite count. Okay, he chooses not to invade the field. This is very interesting. Like, what does Otto even do here? I think there might be a curve remaining. But Lauri really seems to want to win with this without a field. But maybe now Otto can go for something crazier. How about we go here and drop a farmer, and then we hope for a monastery plus road tile to create a bigger field and overrun it 2 versus 1. Or we could just drop a farmer here and hope for a crossroad or a curve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, that was the last curve. It is so much harder to count with the new design, but yes, it was the last curve. So these poor green monks are never seeing the light of day again. It's a very complicated endgame, in particular because the 2 fields could unify through that monastery-shaped hole in the center. Right here. Right here. Maybe this is why Larpaattori didn't want to use this curve, because check this out. If he goes here and drops a farmer, And then if Nallerheim gets a monastery, he goes here, which would be a permanent block to the square because there are no curves remaining. So again, Larpaattori deciding he can still win this without the farm. He has the longer road, but Nallerheim has the bigger field and these gigantic monasteries. It's going to be close again. So Otto goes for the field restriction, a much needed field restriction. Larpaattori just takes 6 points. No, you didn't. It has to be a misclick. There's no way Larpaattori wanted to not play Meeple. Like, I guarantee you it was nervousness and just a misclick. And Nallerheim gets the 8 points for the city. Larpaattori gets the monastery. He's going to complete the connection, and I believe well, there's one Finnish word which everybody in the world knows. I believe this is gonna do it. It is gonna do it. And Nallerheim doesn't even have a meeple to counterattack the farm. 10 points on the scoreboard. Oh man, it's gonna be close. Yeah, 10 points on the scoreboard is not... It should be enough. It's gonna be another one of those close ones again. I think Lauri has it. Because he has the long road and stuff. Actually, I don't know. 53 seconds on his clock. He just needs to find any move that scores him 3 points. It is the maximum that's available on this board. Any 3-point road, any 3-point field. So plenty of options available as long as you just don't lose on time. Well, I guess some calculation is required. Like, he just needs to think if there is a curve remaining, there isn't. But if there were a curve remaining, then the correct move, in fact, would be to go here to take a 2-point road, which is going to turn into a 4-point road when your opponent completes these monasteries. But since there's no curve, none of that is relevant. 16 seconds, maybe just make a move. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, and he goes for a farm. Nallerheim, ooh, ugh. Can't score. Oh, this is so sad. He cannot get himself the extra 2 points. Oh, this is so sad. Because of the restriction on his city. Good games saying is Larpaattori in the chat. Nallerheim responds in a much more reserved fashion. Nicola is saying Nallerheim drew 0 out of 4 tiles through 2 games. Well, if we focus on the crossroads. But actually it's more like 0 out of 6 because he didn't drew any of the curves either. And no way! It's a tie, and this means that Larpaattori wins as the second player. Oh, you couldn't have expected a closer final than this. Wow, wow. Incredible. I wonder what Otto could have done here. Like, there's probably something in the endgame, maybe? So, here's an interesting situation. First of all, yes, congratulations, of course, to Lauri for defeating one of the best players in the world, really. And commiserations to everybody who was rooting for Otto. But maybe it is good for us because this means that he will be forced to go through all of the Champions League qualifying stages, and we're gonna get to see a lot of his exciting games. But let's think about this. So Otto drew this tile, and he chose to take the 8-point city that way. If he were to take this city that way, then he would have one more square available for this tile, which would have allowed him to add 2 more points to his city and win the game by 2 points. But we don't need to be result-oriented. The reason why Otto went here is to eliminate a field connection platform. Because let's say if Otto does go over here instead, and suddenly Larpaattori draws this tile instead of the monastery, then Larpaattori can go here and drop a farmer and connect with a straight line and win an even bigger field outright. All right. Let's see the post-mortem. I have to admit that my finish is really rusty. So I'm gonna need help from somebody in the chat. Nicola is asking why not use Google Translate, because that's beneath me. I can't do that. I can't do that. So no, I'm gonna need some of the Finns watching to chime in. Hi Jan. Oh yeah, I see we already addressed your question about the extender in the opposite direction. Yes, Giraffe is saying the same. But then again, I don't think it was a mistake from Otto, just because it would have allowed a different win path for Larpaattori. But I wonder, you know what? Is it crazy to just not take the ruin from Otto? Because the idea that I'm having is this. Like, we know for sure that if we get the monastery, we win. Because if we keep the field separate, well, our field is just bigger. It's like it's 9 points extra. It's very good. So then maybe there's not much value in that ruin. So maybe we just go here, and the idea is that we still have a meeple left. And so if Lauri goes here for 8 points, as we did, then we still have road tiles available for us. And we can do one of two things. We can either get a crossroads plus straight line, in which we have an unblockable connection over here to overrun the field. Or we can draw this here tile and go over here and try to 50-50 for a crossroads. So this is a super counterintuitive thing to do, but it very much could be the correct move. Just leave the ruin alone and then preserve the meeple for a counterattack against the field. Hi, Lauri. Thanks so much for the entertaining show. There were some amazing games, especially the last one. Actually, no, especially the... I don't remember which one, but my favorite was like one of those games in the middle. Hi, Nallerheim. Jan is asking, was the field 9 or 6 points extra? Oh yes, it's actually 6. Yeah, because this part wasn't here. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 15. And then this here field was 9. So the field was 6 points extra, but that's still the same idea. Like it's 6 points extra without the investment of a meeple. So if you just preserve the meeple until the end, you can take any sort of garbage like a 3-point road, and that should be enough for you to win. But it's quite difficult to calculate. Well, actually, no. Maybe it's not like that difficult. Maybe it's a doable calculation. On the other hand, you know how else we could win if we go here? If we go here and, like in the game, when we claim this ruin, our opponent goes here. If our penultimate tile is this, then we just get a meeple back and we could score on our last move. That could also work. What else is a possibility? But I think overall, going here and leaving this empty might be the super counterintuitive but somehow correct move. Oh! Maybe there's something even weirder and crazier, but it totally works. Well, sort of. We could even, with this tile, check this out. With this tile, we could go over here. And we could block the main field invasion point like this. But we could also preserve the possibility of getting the 10-point ruin a bit later. Now, your concern might be that it gives back a field connection platform, but it really doesn't. I guess there is the option how your opponent can draw the horse and then connect later with a crossroads. Well, first of all, this would be blockable, and second of all, there already exists such a platform anyway here. So it wouldn't be providing any new field invasion options. So it seems to me that, like, just doing something else here wins a little bit more often. Okay, Lauri is saying they're just talking about that finale overall, how overwhelming it was in some specific situation, for example, the crossroads. Gotcha. Thank you so much, Pro Rock TV. All right. Enough with analysis. Again, congratulations to the finalists, especially for Lauri for being one of the first players to qualify for the CCL main stage and being, for the first time, the Finland Online Champion. So, for anybody else who's watching from Finland, if this made you interested in competitive Carcassonne, there are plenty of opportunities to participate. Actually, some of them are in the near future. So before we wrap up, let me try and do some proper advertising using my radio voice as best as I can. Jos sinä olet suomalainen tai Suomessa asuva ulkomaalainen, sinä, ei kukaan muu, voit osallistua seuraavan kilpailuun tai ehkä tulla uudeksi Suomen mestariksi. Ensi syksynä on online mestarisuuskilpailu ja kesänä on Suomen mestarisuuskilpailu henkilökohtaisesti Helsingissä, mutta sinun ei täytyy odottaa pitkää aikaa, koska seuraava online-turnaus tapahtuu hyvin pian. 2 viikkoa jälkeen on Euroopan online-mestarisuusjoukkuekilpailu ja Suomen kilpailu on vielä etsimässä pelejä. Jos sinä haluaisit osallistua, sinun ei täytyy olla mestari, ei täytyy olla eksperti. Ainoa asia, joka sinun täytyy olla, on kiinnostus pelistä. Sinun tarvitsee avata tili Board Game Arenalla. Tili on maksumaton. Tai kirjoittaa viestin Suomen kapteenille Otto Ikoselle, jonka käyttäjätunnus on Nallerheim. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Would be definitely very excited to see more Finnish players and more players from, let's say, newer Carcassonne countries join the scene, so don't be shy. Maybe next year there are many more players to make it even harder for Otto to maintain what currently is still his highest rating in Finland, but as you can see, Lauri has been very successful in challenging that. And with that, we're going to be wrapping up. And oh yeah, of course, remember to subscribe and stuff. That's super important if you wanted to follow more competitive Carcassonne content like this. We're going to be covering other countries' national championships and all kind of things. Make sure to like this video, to meeple the like button for the algorithm. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.